You're tuned into the Johnversations Podcast, and this is episode number 58. As always, I'm John Connor saying thank you for spending a little time with us this week. My guest today, we've been off for a few weeks, so I'm super excited. He is a returning champion. He is an Emmy-winning photographer. You may know him from his amazing Instagram account dedicated to photographing white sharks or his travel company, Be a Shark. He has also launched a brand new photography course to teach you how to take amazing photos with your iPhone. You've got it in your pocket every day. You want to learn how to take amazing photos. This is a course for you. Super happy to have him back. This is a second time visit. Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, Mr. Euan Rannachan. Euan, thank you so much for being here. We've had some updates since the last time, so we've got cool sound effects now, stuff like that. So
awesome.
How are you, man?
I'm great. I'm good. It's pretty hot here in California, but obviously the rest of the country is getting pummeled as well. So counting down the days till we go back to Guadalupe though and swim with the white sharks. It's been almost, it's close to 2 years now. So it's islands officially, we've been told it's going to open. So everything's full steam ahead and just can't wait to get back out there kind of thing.
Now you guys are going back in August, right?
August is the first trip, yeah, and then it's we got a couple spread out until I think we're going back four times, three with our company, and then one with the Pacific Fleet, which is they're the ships that we charter from. So we're doing kind of it's called a signature trip. It's pretty cool. It's on their beautiful Vortex ship, beautiful boat, and I'm going with Nikki and then one of our good friends George. Everyone probably, if they like great white sharks, they definitely know his account. I photograph white sharks. Or is it I photograph sharks? I can't even remember anymore, but he's he's a staple with the sharks guys. So George it's gonna be a fun trip. It's a shark identification trip. So we're gonna show people kind of how we go about identifying the sharks. And George has an incredible presentation that he's given at the Smithsonian and a bunch of other places. It's pretty spectacular that he does for people on the boat, and just kind of shows how the research is conducted in that area and kind of what we look for when we're identifying sharks and all the interesting little things that you can point out on a shark to help you kind of tell who's who. So that's gonna be in September, but yeah, I can't wait to get back out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Nikki, after you guys booked the Vortex, she actually sent me a message and was like, hey, I was like, that's so awesome. And I know that's kind of a big trip for you guys, and to be doing the shark IDs and stuff like that, it seems like it's going to be a pretty cool time. Are there any slots available on that one, or is that one already?
Yeah. I think there's still a couple on that one. We have our October trip I think there's only one, maybe two spots left on that. The people have been understandably kind of hesitant to book this year, just with COVID kind of hopefully wrapping up and all the rest of it. So, but next year's looking really good. We're almost we're halfway sold on next year completely already. So, I think people are excited. Not taking it for granted. The thing I get told all the time with white sharks is it's the bucket list thing, right? We talked about it last time. You tell people what you do, and it happened yesterday. We were at lunch and. The server was like, oh, it's you. He saw the tattoos on my arm and he was asking me about sharks. And I was like, I run this company, yada, yada. And of course, first thing he says, that's on my bucket list. So it's like, I actually made up cards now that have like a QR code on them so people can scan them directly, like trying to take all the kind of, I woulda, coulda, shouldas out of it and make it as easy as possible to kind of, you can do these kind of things. It's easy. And there's no time like the present. I think if COVID's kind of taught me anything, it's been the fact that don't take this stuff for granted, that you love to do, and do it as much as you can whenever you can, and kind of spread the love that way. So I think I think a lot of people kind of have that feeling about it as well, and we're seeing that with people booking now more often. But yeah, like I said, I'm excited this is our first full year with all of our trips going. So it's going to be fun to see old faces and new faces and all that kind of stuff. Introducing people to these animals is probably one of my most favorite things next to being a parent in the entire world. So I'm just stoked to be able to get back out there. I probably said that about 50 times already, but it's the truth.
Oh, sure. Well, and I did want to ask you this too, because when I was talking to Nikki, I was lucky enough to have her on, and for people listening to the show, you guys are business partners and started Be a Shark together. But, she was saying that not being able to go was very, it's something that you guys have become accustomed to, because for years you've been going out, several times, and like you have sharks that you said it's like your favorite thing in the world next to being a parent, but it's like these are sharks that you identify that to you guys have like personalities and stuff like that. So I can imagine that there's, it's like going out to see like your other kids.
Well, two of them are actually named after my kids. Like their official names are actually named after my kids. So it is like seeing your kids. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, she was saying that when she heard that there was the okay to go this year, because for a while it was up in the air, like she just kind of had a breakdown moment and cried and was just so like, did you have a similar experience? Like, what was that like for you when you found out like, oh shit, I get to go back?
Actually, mine was more, I had a breakdown moment when they told us it was closed last year, because there was a small window that was like things were kind of calming down enough that we were like, maybe it'll go. And there was murmurs and rumors. And then it was just a fat shutdown day. And that actually, I think that was pretty much, if I'm honest now, looking back at the height of the pandemic. So like, there's really no way it could have happened. But we were just so hoping it was going to happen. And like, it's very difficult. And Nikki, kind of alluded to this too. It's very difficult to, difficult to, because most of the time when you tell people what you do, they immediately, and we talked about this last time, call you crazy or say you're crazy, or it's just this immediate. So like immediately when that happens, trying to explain to someone why you feel like you absolutely have to do this it's almost impossible. Like they're just not going to understand. And that's no fault to them. Like it's just a thing that then happens with this, because people don't understand how peaceful it is and how much of a reset for people like Nikki and I, who are pretty much, our lives are dedicated to this kind of stuff. We need it. Like we absolutely need it. We need to. It's very difficult to explain. Like I'm having trouble explaining it now, but so for me it was relief. It wasn't like it actually. I mean, I was ecstatic. I was very happy. But I had more of the breakdown when I knew last year that there was just, the doors going to slam shut. And it was, obviously it was about not being able to see the sharks and do what we love to do, but it was also, for our company that we just started that was doing so well and had so much promise. And I was just like, I don't know how this is going to, survive, but, massive shout out to obviously Nikki, who, we both kind of just had to kind of grab each other by the scruff of the neck and just like, let's figure this out, and then also our partners, Pacific Fleet, everyone on the Solmar, that's the ship we go on, all those guys, everyone rallied, everyone was in the same position, which made it a lot easier to kind of get through, because we all had to, make tough decisions. Luckily everything turned out for the better, and I think it made all our relationships stronger, and we were able to help them with stuff. They were able to help us with stuff. And, I think the redeeming factor in the whole thing was the fact that we were all, like I just said, stuck in the same situation. So we had to make the best of the bad situation. And I think we found ways of doing that. And it gave us time. I mean, honestly, I've been editing so much. Like I've been doing, I mean, I have a lot of photos to go through to edit from, but like when you're someone whose pretty much career depends on you constantly putting work out there, and you're, not able to go and photograph anything new, it definitely, it's a new challenge. I'd actually in the beginning, it was like, how the hell am I going to do this? But during like it made me, I think it's actually probably helped my editing. It's helped me see things differently. It's helped me, I have stuff now that I want to shoot that I probably wouldn't have thought of shooting last time we were there, just because I've been sitting in front of my computer so much, seeing little things, being like, oh, I wonder if I can get like a reflection of that in this, or I wonder if I can. So there's definitely like, it's helped with that. But that being said, there's also, during the whole pandemic, it's like, are we ever going to get to go to the island again? And that, that was another huge, that was probably the thing that weighed heaviest on my shoulder. So when they finally said it was open again, that's the thing that really I took solace in, just knowing that it's okay. Like things are starting to get back to normal kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
some sense of normalcy. And I think that's a really good point because, I'm sure at that point, especially with the new business and things like that, it felt like, oh man, like everything is crumbling. And I remember the first time that I got to sit down and talk with you, I think we were maybe a month in, right around there, like the lockdown, because the lockdown happened in March of last year. And I remember us talking about how, you were having a hard time. You were feeling bad for your kids because it was isolating, and you've got the two younger boys and can't see your friends and stuff like that. And I was wondering now, because like California now, as of the 15th, you guys are, essentially open for the most part, right? Like, have things kind of gotten again a little bit more towards that sense of normalcy for you now that because here in Tennessee, it was like, yeah, you're kind of shut down. You're not, you know what I mean? It's a lot of like, don't tread on me, brother. So there's a lot of that down here, but California,
we that. I'm out in the sticks, so we get a lot of that too. That kind of mentality. My wife works in infectious disease. So from the start, I've known this was a real deal. Like, this isn't something you should mess around with. This is, so I was always in that boat. That being said, like as soon as I was allowed to get my vaccination, everyone can do whatever they want. They can get vaccinated. They can't get vaccinated. They just do whatever they want. I really don't care. But like, as soon as I was able to, I went and got mine. And then after that, it was very hard for me to like wear a mask and to do all those kind of things because, I was given the opportunity. I did absolutely everything I was supposed to do up to that. Like, and now obviously if I go into there's no establishments anymore that make you wear the mask. They say like, we preferred if you wear a mask and like, to each his own, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. But like I had done my job up to that. Like I was done what I was asked to do. I got vaccinated. So now it's just kind of like, and I don't know if it's a coping mechanism for me, just because I was not worried, but like just hoping to everything was going to go back to normal at some point. And now seeing that glimmer of hope, and honestly, like the last couple of days around here, it's felt like very normal, it's so refreshing and so great. But also it's kind of a double-edged sword because my family lives in England and they're still in like, it's opening up, but they're not as far along as, the United States has been. And I have a lot of friends, international friends all over the world that are, battling with the Indian variant and all the rest of it. And, these are very real things that kind of creep in the back of my mind too, as everything's opening up and we're all celebrating and being excited about it. It's like, and I know I just said, to each his own about getting vaccinated. It's fine. I just really hope that people take it as seriously as it is. It's so difficult when it's something that's been weaponized and, whatever you think about the political situation in the country, just like, I really hope that people give it enough thought that, it could be, if all things went to hell, we could be looking at another lockdown, and that would, come flu time. And that would be really, it would really suck. And I'm not sure how this country actually honestly would do with another lockdown. So I pray it doesn't come to that. But like as I said, knowing and talking to so many people in other countries very often, I know how probable it could be. I just saw Sydney's just gone back into a lockdown. So, it's all real things. And I'm not sticking my head in the sand, but at the same time, I am celebrating the fact that I, don't have to wear a mask anymore. And
it's getting that sense of normalcy for a second and being like, oh, really? like, you mentioned your family being in England. I'm originally from the Detroit area and now I live in Tennessee, and my whole family, I'm like the only one that moved out of state. So my whole family still lives up there. And the last time I was able to go home was September of 2019. And then, we had a trip planned in February of 2020 and the kid got sick and then we all got sick, and then March, everything locked down. So I hadn't seen my family in like almost 2 years. And my sister just brought my nephew and my niece, who I hadn't met my niece yet. Wow. And they just came down, they got here on a Friday. They were here Saturday and left on a Sunday. But it was just like being able to it's weird because, you know, everyone was like, I just want to hug my grandma like during, and I was like, that's a little dramatic. And then I got to hug my sister and I was like, oh, I kind of get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's you know, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, bud.
I was just gonna say my sister's due date is today, so like I mean she's gonna have the baby, and going to England's still very tough. Like there's a quarantine in place and all the rest of it kind of thing. But yeah, it's the same kind of deal with me. I haven't seen my parents in 2 years, and but thank God for technology, right? Like being able to FaceTime and like all that kind of stuff has been. I mean, it's not the same, but it's like it is pretty darn good.
Yeah, we would play we'd play the Jackbox game. So there's like, you don't know Jack, like Drawful. I'd put on the laptop and do Zoom and do the screen share. And it's actually kind of funny because, like, you know, like I'm the oldest of four. We've always been fairly close, but it seems that like because of COVID, because we knew we couldn't go like see each other, it seemed like we actually did get a little bit closer because we were like, well, let's, you know, schedule a game night, or, you know, everyone's home, so it sucks for everybody. So it's weird because you did feel very isolated, but in a couple of ways it was like, oh, okay, I do feel a little bit closer. But it, you know, we went to a restaurant when they were here, and it was like, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. And we're on the way home, my wife was like, I'm just so thankful that like we could go to a restaurant and sit down and like, you know, it feels like old times, you know what I mean? So
it's the little things, right? The things you kind of take for granted that like, it's really refreshing to have that happening again, kind of around you thing. So I totally get it.
Yeah. I'm still wearing the mask depending on where I go, just because my wife and I are vaccinated, but, you know, we've got a 2-year-old and she can't get vaccinated yet. And so, and, you know, there's all that like, well, even if you're vaccinated, you may still carry it and have it, but not get sick. So like if we go someplace outside or something like that, or like, you know, I took her today to IHOP for a daddy-daughter date. Just me and her, you know, we went and got pancakes and we wore a mask until we got to the table and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's just weird. I had some guy laugh at me at a gas station. Like I went into the gas station and I was like, I don't know where you've been, dude. I'm not trying to take, you know, like you don't want to wear one. That's cool. I'm not, you know, but he was just like,
that's the thing I don't understand. Honestly, during this whole thing, people get so bent out of shape about it. Like, you know, I got pretty angry about it during COVID itself, just for the fact that I was living in an area of California that like was like, you know, screw everything, screw the rules, screw science, screw all this kind of stuff. And it's very hard, especially coming, like we just moved up here from the, you know, Bay Area, which is very, you know, obviously tech central, smart area, but like, you know, peace and love, all that kind of stuff. So they
lots of micro dosing. Just like, what's that, man?
Yes, without a doubt. But also just ones that like tend to like agree with science and things that we should be doing for public health. And, you know, yes, you're a healthy adult. I get it. But obviously, like your grandparents can die from this. And it's like, I'm not fear mongering. I'm not doing any of that stuff. My wife at the time was like, New York was on its head with, you know, casualties and all the rest. And people were just going about their business here. So I was like, you know, I got very annoyed and bent out of shape about that. And so like I think for me, more of like, I mean, I obviously wear the mask whenever, if there's places I need to wear a mask now. We luckily just haven't had many of those places. And absolutely, if I had a child that, you know, couldn't, then I would as well. But it's just more of a fact that like I got bent out of shape because people around me were never wearing masks. And there I was doing it for over a year. And I was just like I've did it for you guys for as long as I could and to protect my family. And now it's like, now I've done my duty. Like I'm just going about living my life. You guys have been doing it this whole time. Congratulations. I'm glad you're still around. But like, it's weird. It was just a perfect storm. It was like the election and then like the pandemic. And it was like all this stuff on top of each other and you were talking a minute ago about, you know, having those game nights and stuff with your family and how you think it's brought you closer together. I mean, don't forget that you're living through multiple historic events over and over again. So, something that you've never psychologically had to deal with and how you would deal with it. So like you need those people closest to you at those times that you can say the things that, you might not necessarily be able to tell your friends without them judging or whatever it is kind of thing. So, those interactions are very important, and we really need to start getting, people need to really take a look at kind of, it should be a good wake up call for a lot of people also, just for the fact that like they might take people for granted. And, you hear that adage all the time, that, you never know when it's going to be your last day kind of thing. Like you're not guaranteed tomorrow. I was kind of saying that before about people now booking with us because like, your bucket list isn't going to fill itself.
Right.
You're not, you might go back into there might be COVID-20 next year. God, I hope not. But like, you know what I mean? Like this,
right.
You're not guaranteed to be able to do what you think you're going to be able to do in 5 years. So, I think having family around, I mean, mine lived on another continent, but like my friends, I count a lot of my friends as my family too. So being able to, see them and talk to them and, ask them like, are we, is there about to be a civil war? Like what's happening now? I don't understand what's going on.
I'd be split roasted like a pig being a liberal in Tennessee. They'd be like, you're wrong state, boy, you better defect. Get out of here.
Knock, knock, knock.
Yeah. First to go. First they came for you. And I said nothing. It would be that whole
Oh man, I know it. And I saw, Chris D'Elia, he's meeting. So,
R.I.P. Chris D'Elia. Yeah.
But I did see he put out some clip yesterday or 2 days ago on Instagram, and he was talking about like just the people marching against the loudest people are the ones that you probably don't. It's like what he begins to say. He's like, we all have those family members that we don't want to invite to Thanksgiving because we don't know what, you're always just like, oh, this person, he's a little bit crazy. He's got a crazy job. He just never fits in right. But he was just like, the internet gives these people this air of like confidence.
Like an echo chamber. Like
yes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
They all get together and they all start, and everyone else is sitting on the outside like, guys, no, we all don't believe this. And it's like the majority of the country, but it's like these small pockets of people that are just the loudest and he's just talking about like fighting on the internet. Cause I made it, I think I told you this last time, I made it a kind of I was just sick of seeing negativity about like 5 or 6 years ago on the internet. And I was just like, from now on, all I'm going to do is post like either art that I've made or photos that I've taken or inspirational stuff or like shout outs or bigging people up. And I'm only going to focus on that. I'm not going to get tangled up with trolls. I'm not going to, if they want to do that, I was like, oh my God, I can just delete their comments off my Instagram. I'm like, oh my God.
Block you. I never have to talk to you ever again. Let me just hit that block button.
Like, I have no problem doing that. So like, and people test it all the time. And I'm just like, I don't even block them if I'm honest, because like, they'll just make another account and come at you even harder. But I just like immediately delete the comments. And it's like, it feels great to me. It feels way better to me than like typing negative stuff back to them kind of thing. I'm just like, yeah, no one needs to see that. No one needs to see that. Like, I'm pretty sure my name's on the top of this page, so I don't really care what you have to say. So, yeah, sorry, I don't even know where I was going with that, but the positivity. It's like the echo chamber. I agree with you, man. It's so easy to, especially if you're someone who spends time on like Twitter or Facebook or something like that. It's very easy to think that like on both sides. You know what I mean? It's very easy to think that. No, it's absolutely both sides. Yeah, the extremists. Yeah. You can't like everything in moderation. It's like we all, I think it's people, and then people argue like, well, you can't be extreme. I mean, you can't be a moderate in kind of a time like this. I'm like, of course you can. Like, this is actually the time where you actually need to be listening kind of to both sides and listening to what's being said, because, whether you agree with it or not, like we're all on the same team. Like, we're all on the same side, as much as some people don't want to agree with that. But it's like, yeah, so it was a tricky kind of thing to navigate as being someone who, I mean, people just come to me to look at my shark stuff, but like I feel like it was just one of those times. It was kind of a weird time to be one of those people that people like, having, don't have a ton, but like, 50,000 people looking at your stuff every day is, you feel like sometimes you have to say something, especially when someone speaks up. But I felt like my positivity was just putting the Sharks first. That's kind of a weird thing to say, but it was just like that was a sense of normalcy. People were seeing Shark images every day. It was my little thing that I could do. I get a lot of messages. People like, "Oh, I love your page. It's one of my favorites on Instagram or wherever it is," kind of thing. And that's, as for me, that's fantastic. I love hearing that kind of stuff. So, but I wasn't looking for a pat on the back or anything, but it was just like, it was my way. I think also for me coping with it too. It's just like, just keep that going, keep the normalcy.
Pour yourself into something, and that's that's the other thing. That's something that I admire about you, because like you poured yourself into, I'm going to continue to edit. I mean, you were showing, not only were like you doing the editing, but you were doing videos of like showing people how you did the edits, stuff like that. I was stress eating. So like, that's why I respect someone, because you're getting work done. And I had lost before the pandemic, I had lost about 40 pounds. And then by February of this year or March of this year, I had gained 46. So I gained it all back and then some. So I'm back down. I'm back down another 25. I'm like, I'm working on it again now that,
good work, dude.
Hopefully getting back to the old YMCA with the grandmas and the grandpas in the morning and stuff like that. But, that's something that, when you talk about the positivity and the inspiration, that's something that I admire greatly about you is not only were you using that time to put more creative works into the world, but you were doing these little videos and things on your story to kind of show people who might be interested how to do it. And the other thing, you took some, last year, obviously COVID, and then California was just raging with those wildfires. Mm-hmm. And you had some amazing photos of first responders out there working the fires and things like that. Talk to me a little bit about that, because in my head, when I saw those pictures, I was like, this guy's fucking out of his mind. Like people run from the fire, and this guy's like, no, let me get my camera. I want to see what's like. If you think getting in the water with sharks are nuts, like try running into a burning forest. You know what I mean?
I wasn't running into the forest. I got close. I got really close, but So one of my jobs too, I'm an art director for this really incredible winery in Napa called Dakota Shy. And we actually made Wine Spectator's Top 100 a couple years ago in the world, and haven't been able to keep the wine in stock since then. So I've been able to do a bunch of really fun things with those guys. And I love them. They're all my family. But obviously with what's happening in the world climate wise and all the rest, the last couple of years, Napa, it's a very dry, arid area, just like, most of Northern California, and the hills kind of where I live too. And it, unfortunately, last couple of years, we've had some very devastating fires. Last year was especially bad. And I live quite far from there now. I live almost 2 hours away, but I go quite often. And I just knew that, it was bad. I had shot the fires two years prior when it was really bad. But I was getting texts from a lot of friends just being, telling me which winery had been completely destroyed, like constantly. I think there was, I want to say something like 15 or 16, just like Jesus. Really beautiful places just wiped off the face of the earth, let alone the amount of homes and all the rest kind of thing. But I knew I wanted to go, well, and we were obviously in a pandemic. So first responders were, stretched to the max. I know so it was important to me at that time I wanted to go and kind of not tell their story, but I wanted to photograph them in action and give back in a tiny way. I don't know. It was probably more selfish I just wanted to go and photograph them doing their thing, and not knowing if anyone would ever see them. But I live very close to Folsom, and it's a town about 40 minutes from Sacramento east. So I drove to Napa that day in the morning, and I just like all the roads were closed, but I had a friend who lived on the other side of the valley where I was, and I just decided to drive over to his house, make sure everything was cool. And the roads somehow weren't closed on that side, so I managed to I could see some smoke in the hills. So I managed to get around the backside, and soon I found his house. But he was gone. The structure was okay, but a little ways down the road, I see these big Folsom fire trucks right there, and they're they were ways away from their house. But I just thought, this is pretty interesting. These guys are right here, and I pulled over, and the chief, one of the chiefs, like battalion chief, was in his like red pickup right there, and I just came up next to him and said, "Hey, I'm a photographer. I'd love to take some photos of you guys in action. Is it okay if I stand?" I got permission. I asked, and they're like, "That's fine, but like." If the fire moves through here, just know it could be a kind of a touchy situation. So so anyway, I hung out there for a while, and the fire came over the hill we were at, and I just managed to they were trying to guard these eucalyptus trees that were right there on the side of the road. And eucalyptus trees they're pretty much like bombs when they catch on fire. The oil in them just like can be very bad and
just keep kind of spreading, really
accelerate the fire very quickly. So they let it burn around it, but they dig around the tree and all that kind of stuff. So I shot them doing that. And then I just kind of hung out at a distance back from them, for the rest of the day. Then I got some pretty incredible photos of them with their jackets. It says Folsom Fire on the back and just these huge flames in the background. And, it was a humbling experience, if I'm honest. I've shot a lot of like stuff for CAL FIRE and some of the East Bay regional park areas. I used to live where we lived in the East Bay. I was kind of a rural area, and if a fire would spring up, I'd go out with my camera and try and get, I love watching those incredible pilots drop in the water and stuff. So trying to go out there and take some photos. So I've in the past been able to give those over to them, and they use for this, that, and the other. So this was one of those opportunities too. So I was able to. Actually, I think some of the girlfriends, so the guys fighting the fires at the time, they hadn't seen them in a while because they've been fighting for a couple of weeks at that point. Obviously, they've been talking to them and probably FaceTime and all that, but
right.
It was just pretty cool seeing. They direct messaged me, and I was able to get them the photos and stuff like that. But I tell you what, man, I came back, and I live on the hillside here, and we've got 150 oak trees maybe on the property. And I was like, as soon as I came home, I was just like, all right, cutting that one down, I'm cutting that one down, I'm cutting that
Clear
one
those
down.
bitches. Get them out of here.
I'll tell you what, like it has definitely, just the speed at these fires move at and the ferocity. Like,
well, that's what I wanted to ask you too, because you said while you were there, like it like moved over the hill. So how, because, when you see pictures, like when you, like, obviously I saw your photos, but then at that time, it was all over the news, and it looked like Mars. Like some of those pictures, just like everything. So being there and like seeing it, like, were you kind of in a like amazement at how quickly it seemed to just like eat everything up and go, or had you seen it before?
I don't know if I really I didn't really grasp that as much in the moment, because it's weird the way that the especially the forest fires guys fight these fires. When you hear someone say fighting a fire, I automatically thought of like a bunch of dudes standing there with hoses in a line, just like spraying the hell out of this fire, right? But honestly, there's like not much water involved. Like they have, some of them have backpacks or these like little hand pump sprayer things that they get little spot fires with, but for the majority, it's dudes with like pickaxes and shovels and stuff clearing areas to let it burn up to. So they
controlling it more so than like trying to eliminate
they're kind of
it.
corralling the fire. So they'll go to the structures, and then they'll dig these paths all the way around the structures, and like around the eucalyptus trees and all that kind of stuff. But they're like, fires, just going to burn all these trees. It will get that. And like, unless they're dropping water on it with airplanes and all the rest, helicopters, which was actually the 2 years before that, when we had the last big fires come through. I made this video, and I can send it to you after it was like, it felt like you were in a movie, because the National Guard had been called out. So they had these Blackhawks with these huge baskets, and they were, so at a vineyard, there's usually a giant reservoir where like a massive looking swimming pool thing that they help use to irrigate, all the fields. and they're all over the place. But like the helicopters were just going in and picking up this water and coming out. And there was this one I found, and I was able to like, probably wasn't supposed to be in there, but I parked my car on the side of the road and I ran down this row of vines and like lay on top of the hill. And these helicopters were coming in 10 feet from me. Like I can see the dude like shaking his head, like, what are you doing? And I probably wasn't supposed to be there, but I was making a video. I had my big cinema camera on my lap, and I'm kind of trying to hold, and like I'm getting prop washed, like almost flung off the hill, but got these epic videos of them coming in and picking up, and I made them kind of a tribute video, which they ended up really liking. But it's a fine line with that kind of stuff. Like I wouldn't say I'm a fire chaser. Like if I see smoke, I'm not jumping in my car and running over there, but I feel like these guys don't get enough of a pat on the back most of the times. I mean, you know, people, you'll see the things like, thank you, firefighters. And I know it's their job and all the rest, and they wouldn't have it any other way, but it's just, you know, as a photographer, even with the sharks, I feel like I'm a bit of a storyteller too. Like I try and make that come through in photos. I try and make it as cinematic as possible. So the same thing kind of goes for this kind of stuff. I wanted to make it as, you know, just wanted to give them their pat on the back and their dues kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's like, it's crazy because those guys are, when I think about a firefighter, like I just think of someone who is, number one, either you're kind of a thrill chaser yourself, or you're just like, you're brave as hell. Cause there's no way I'm suiting up in any of that stuff. I would be out of breath just putting the outfit on, let alone like,
dude, I hate it when it's hotter outside than inside my body. I'm so angry.
Dude, my sister was here and she was like, why is your house like a refrigerator? And I was like, because it's 94 degrees outside. If you don't like the temperature in here, you can go out there. But it is
for 2 minutes. Then you like it. You'll come back in here. Yeah. My wife me too.
But it's like, it's that kind of thing where, you know, cops get a bad rap because it's like, well, you know, like it's a certain kind of person, like the bully and heights, blah, 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 where it's like a firefighter. I never think about that. It's like, oh, you're just somebody who wants to like save somebody, because there's, you know, it's not like the fire shooting back at you or anything like that. You're like, I'm just going to run in this burning building and hopefully be able to put this fire out. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Yeah.
Special kind of dude for sure. They all, and women. I mean, they're all incredible. And yeah, just the selflessness of all those guys, and to be away from your family for that long, and especially the dudes like the Cal Fire guys that go, you know, get dropped in by helicopter, and then they're just like, well, if the wind shifts, we're all dead. That's really what's going to happen right now. But like for now, we're just going to work on this hill and try and save that person's house. But like we could all die at any moment right now. And like drowning is one. Actually, probably I like fire and drowning. Obviously, I think are probably the two worst ways to go. But like fire has got to be just, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I've always heard that like drowning after a certain point like kind of becomes euphoric because your brain's like you're gonna. But not the way that I would want to go. But you know, anytime I think fire, I'm like, oh, you mean going out like Freddy Krueger? Like that's like that's what you mean, just like slowly roasting. Yeah, I can't. No, thank you.
No thanks. No, nope. And it's a real possibility, like a very real possibility. But yeah, so that was incredible. We had fires. So another thing during COVID. So as I said, like I've really been working on my editing and whatnot, but also, you know, I didn't have much to shoot, and that's been a weird thing because my whole, you know, professional life, I'm constantly either traveling or I'm shooting something, a conference, or I'm, you know, whatever it is. I've got something that I have to photograph. So it was tough for me because I'm like, I take a lot of photos of my kids, but like they, you know, after a while, it's just like, okay, I need to take some photos or something else kind of thing.
Right. And I'm sure your kids are the same way. They're like, okay, Dad.
Without a doubt. Although one now just wants to have a YouTube channel so bad and is like doing that kind of thing. So, so we had the fires, but then middle of the winter, we like had a massive swell come through Mavericks. And we had usually Mavericks only goes off once, maybe a season, sometimes never. It's a lot of things have to line up for that to happen. But we had like 3 just absolutely insane days out there this last year. And I probably had some of my best Maverick photos I've ever taken, but that was like, it was intense though. Like, so it was like, we had the fires and then I had that right after it. So I was definitely on a high after that. And the photos were just, I don't know if did you catch any of those when I put them up?
Now is Maverick like the surfing stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I did see the surfing photo. I've been like breadbasket kid my whole life. So when you're like the Maverick, and I'm like, I think swells mean surfing.
Giant waves.
So yes, I did. They were awesome.
Yeah, that was absolutely intense. So like that both those experiences definitely helped scratch the itch of getting out and shooting. And then I was just able to make a lot of content out of that afterwards. So that was very helpful.
Oh yeah, man. I'm sure like, because people, if people are listening, you haven't checked out the first time that Euan was on the show. You work for Clorox, you work for the winery, you shot the professional hockey for San Jose, right? So,
right.
Be a Shark guy shoots photos of the San Jose Sharks. It only makes sense. And then, having the travel company, like I've always thought of it, like I grew up playing music, being in a band, like there was stretches where, you're in a van with 5 other dudes for, 2 weeks and you're playing shows. And like, if I couldn't do, I have a guitar at home. So even if I'm not playing to anyone, I can still just kind of sit down and I get the, like, okay, I'm going to sit, I'm going to play, I'm going to work on some ideas and kind of get into that headspace. And it's a release for me. So if I didn't have that, I don't know how I necessarily that in this podcast, I don't know how I would have made it through COVID at all.
Yeah.
So for someone like you who like your job you're not only your job, but like that release requires like for you to be in different situations around different people and different things. I'm sure it was like, if I had hair, I would pull it out. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was tricky. It was tricky to kind of find, that's kind of how Photography Confidence Academy came about too. Cause I'd wanted to do something where, so like I get constantly asked on Instagram and all that, like what camera to buy, what settings did I use, all that kind of stuff. And, I talk to people all the time about that kind of stuff. And I like helping people with those questions, but a lot of the times I can tell you what kind of camera to buy, but like, it's not going to make you a better photographer if I do that. So I've always tried to help kind of coach, like if someone asks me that question, then I immediately go to like, well, what do you like to take photos of? It's not like about the gear. It's like what kind of, cause that can change what lens to use. I can change it can do a lot of stuff. Hold on one second. I think my son's about to, nope, he went the other way. So yeah, it can depend on like what lens you're going to be using to shoot what and all that kind of stuff. So I tend to kind of coach people or try and help people through that kind of thinking process, because that can change what what kind of camera you're going to buy and all the rest too. So I find that he is trying. Sorry. So anyway. So instead of telling them what kind of camera to buy and all the rest, I thought, well, why not, it'd just be better if I could help them become better photographers, and it actually was more of just like help them become more confident when they're taking photos, so people can take better photos when and then post them online and do all that kind of stuff. It's constantly people, if you're in a group of people and they'll take their cell phone out and people take the photos of the same thing, the same whatever, the birthday cake, kid blowing out candles, and then they go around. If you look at all those photos, they're all going to be different. Obviously they're taken in different points of the room and different, but there might be a professional photographer there and they'll take a photo with the exact same camera, but he's just implemented the things that he knows.
Yeah, he knows like aspect ratio, like rule of thirds and stuff like
changing the angle and like messing with the exposure and all that kind of stuff, helping to tell the story in the way and forcing you to look at what you want the person to look at. So that's very difficult to just coach someone through with a DSLR, because there's a lot of variables that come into play when that kind of thing happens. Kevin, I thought that door was locked. Hold on.
No, you're good.
So there's a lot of variables that come into play when you're using a DSLR to kind of do that kind of stuff. So it's a lot easier for me to coach someone through how to use your cell phone to take better photos, because the phone is going to make a lot of the decisions for you. It's going to,
light balance and
that kind of stuff. You can, it's like light balance, but also with like exposure and stuff, you can change it on the fly. A lot of people don't know that. And there's, the vast array of editing techniques, let alone all the apps you can download on your phone to use to shoot different things and all the rest. So, I actually had during COVID just started shooting with my phone. Pretty much that's all I was using. I was just using my phone. I was just recording stuff. I was actually going with the winery. We had a bit of a pickle where the majority of our wine gets sold through our tasting room. So we had to quickly, with the tasting rooms being closed, figure out another way of, getting our wine out to our members and all the rest. So we, the owner bought this incredible massive RV. We wrapped it with our logo and he just set out across the country and we went.
That's awesome.
All over the place. We went all over. He was up and on the East Coast. He was on the bus for over 100 and some days. I went for two stints. I probably spent like three weeks, I think, with him on the road. And I was filming vlogs the whole time. So each day, and 90% of that was with my cell phone. And I came back from that just like absolutely blown away by like the image stabilization, just the quality of image that you can get out of such a thing that's in your pocket at all times kind of thing. So kind of, a light bulb went off in my head and I was like, well, this tool is the way to really introduce people into taking better photos. And it's such a good tool. Like it can be a beginner, but it also can be for, anyone else as well, because like you can download apps to make it completely, manual and all the rest. So anyway, I'd had some friends talking to me about, doing kind of a course with the DSLR and, which I think we're still going to do in the future, but it's very daunting just staring down the barrel of a gun on that one.
Oh, yeah.
The market is a hell of a lot bigger with people with cell phones who are trying to take better photos. Think of all the times where, you think, well, maybe we have to go get a photographer to come and photograph my son's birthday or whatever, there's this kind of can alleviate that kind of those thought processes because you can actually do that kind of stuff with the phone that's in your pocket. So anyway, we decided let's just make a course, around it's really around an iPhone. We're now adding Android to it as well, but like to get people, and we're not the first course to do this with an iPhone, but I feel like I was a self-taught photographer. Like I went to art school, but I went for fine art, illustration and fine art, and photography was just a kind of a byproduct of what happened. And I quickly fell in love with it. But I have these kind of ways that I've learned because I'm very visual. I'm a very visual person. And I think a lot of us are. And I think especially with this day and age with YouTube and all the rest, like it's a lot easier for me to watch someone do something online in a video that I'm specifically interested in learning instead of just like taking a breadth of stuff and just kind of, so like for me, like researching a video, seeing how they do it, and then going out and actually trying to implement it myself, and then rewatching that video maybe 10 times until I finally like understood the concept and can go on to the next kind of thing. So that's how we kind of set up this class, break it down into, the different modes, the different buttons, what everything does on your phone's camera app itself, all that kind of stuff. So I feel like I said, we're not the first person to come up with a course for the iPhone, but we're going to be the only people that teach it like I do, because that's the way I learned. So it's like trying to take the quote unquote science out of it. Like it's less numbers and more like practical situations and how I would kind of, shoot that with my phone kind of thing. And so it's a really good introduction to photography, I feel like, and it gets, and from the feedback I've been getting, it gets people very excited about, knowing how to use their phone and giving them more confidence in the situations they're in to get photos that they're going to be proud of kind of thing. So that's how it all kind of got started. And we launched like pretty much to friends and family right now. It is live though. Anyone can go on the website and check it out. And I'll get you the link and stuff too, but it's
we'll put it in the show notes. So if anybody's listening and wants to check it out, it's funny because Yeah, I told you the first time that you came on, right when my daughter was born, I bought a DSLR, got myself a Nikon. I was like, I'm going to use this fucking thing all the time. I'm going to take all these pictures. And I learned a lot, and, I learned how to, do the bokeh and play with the exposure and everything like that. But around Christmas last year, I ended up selling it because I was like, this whole thing has to fit in. I've got like different lenses and I've got, different shutters, like to go over to, how much light do I want to block out? And I can't just carry this thing in my pocket. I have to have it. And then we were going to go to Michigan, in September, when we went to Michigan. I packed everything up and had it on my back, and, my wife's grandmother dropped us off at the airport, and I got through security. And I was like, God damn it. I left my camera in the, what I mean? No. I was like, I packed everything up. So I ended up selling it because I was like, I never think to take it with me because it is so bulky. And then when you announced that you were doing this course, you said people always ask me what's the best camera to use. And you said the camera that you have on you. And I was like, yeah, man, I've taken millions of pictures of like my daughter, going some places because my phone is right in my pocket. But I'm not like, okay, we're going to the farmer's market. Let me grab my backpack camera in case I see something that, I want to take pic, you know what I mean? So it's that part. I was like, I think that would be very, because, especially with just from a social media standpoint, everyone likes to put these pictures up online and wants to, it seems like even put up a certain representation of themselves. So
everyone wants that the best.
Right. You want it's a weird culture that we have where you want people to look and be like, oh, I'm jealous, this picture, what they're doing. And I think a lot of it is how it's taken or how it's edited or what it's made to look like. But we live in a culture where that's kind of what people thrive for. And I think the cool thing about what you're doing is not only are people going to be able to achieve that if that's what they're looking for, but you're actually, it's like giving someone a Swiss Army knife, but actually showing them how to use everything in that Swiss Army knife. You know what I mean? They're coming out, even though it might benefit them in a superficial way, they're coming out with a legitimate skill as far as I learned something.
Yeah. And it could be a superficial way, but also it could, I have, just through the years of people asking questions, I've watched photographers grow, and that's it's a really powerful thing to do. So I love teaching. I really enjoy that. And it's obviously best when you're sitting right next to the person, because, photography can be very complicated, and it can be very frustrating for people just getting going in the way that they, if they don't know how to fix a situation and get the photo that they're looking for, they immediately give up and kind of throw the towel in. And I can't teach stick-to-itiveness. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
The ability to just, power through, situations that aren't working out. That's the word I was looking for.
I'm going to start using stick-to-itness, though. I think I like that a lot better.
It sounds right, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. You didn't have the stick-to-itness.
Yeah, your stick-to-itiveness sucks. So I think you can't teach that to people, but if you can kind of give them a spark, I find a lot of people have it, and they just need that little extra help to get to that starting point. In anything, this can go for absolutely anything. And I think, it's tough with a DSLR because yes, it is big and there are lenses and all the rest, but there obviously is a time and place where that's just going to obviously outperform an iPhone. But at the same time, man, people do not give these cell phones enough credit. Even I've got professional photographer friends that just for one reason or the other wouldn't use it to take. It's a bit different when it's further off and you actually need the optical kind of the things that a DSLR is going to provide you for something farther off. But man, if you can get, and using now with the new one, being able to actually have an optical, it's about a 75 millimeter lens. So it's punched in a little bit and giving you that flexibility instead of actually walking closer or away from something. So it's an incredible tool that just doesn't get enough doesn't get enough respect. I mean, obviously it gets enough respect. It's sold so many, but when I'm talking about respect, I mean like actually people using it for professional things. So like this hopefully this class definitely shows you how all the buttons, what everything works. A lot of people don't know you can actually edit the iPhone has a built-in editing app that's incredible. That's inside each photo. It shows it. We dive into a little bit of editing, but we're going to be adding to the course as we go along. Like I said, different phones, I want to kind of do kind of a app of the week kind of thing that I highlight on our Facebook page where I've been using to help just like shine light on editing apps that I use a lot, or even stuff that I shoot in a lot. And yeah, I really think it's going to be beneficial to a lot of people. Like I said, I've already got some feedback of people really getting people excited, and that gets me excited because I know that it's really helping. And that's honest. I mean, there's a lot of courses you get marketed courses all the time, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram or wherever it is, master classes, whatever you want to call them. And my biggest thing from the start, the guy that I'm making it with, Barrett, I was talking to him about it, and I was just like, man, like I would love to do this, and I do want to do this, but also like I don't want to do this just to make money. I mean, that'll be a nice side thing that comes out of it. But I really want it to be a bonus to people. Like I want people to be, surprised at how much they get out of the course, and I want it to be effective for them. And I think it is that. Hopefully it is that. So, yeah. Well,
and I will say, man, I think, I feel very fortunate in the fact that my wife will tell you, I am not someone who needs a lot of friends in my life. Like I've got a couple of friends, but mostly I'm a homebody, stuff like that. But you are somebody that I find myself communicating with quite frequently, whether it's on like Instagram or like you're posting something and you're just kind of talking back and forth. I consider myself very lucky to be in a position where I get to sit down and have these kind of conversations with you. And I've coming into this podcast, I was thinking about it, and it's because you are so passionate about everything that you do. You know what I mean? Whether it's doing the shark photography, or you did this incredible painting. I forget which hockey player it was, but you did this like giant. It's like just like watching someone who is passionate about what they do is like at least for me, it seems like the ultimate motivator. Where even if it's not the same realm, you're like, oh man, I'm gonna go sit down with the guitar for 20 minutes because this just kind of lit a fire under me. And you posted something recently. It was excuse me, it was Anthony Bourdain talking about In-N-Out Burger, right? Yeah. But the way he's talking about In-N-Out Burger, it makes it sound like he's got like Wagyu steak, and he's like but it's he is. There's a few people in my life that I contribute a lot of my drive's not the right word. It's I guess creative drive maybe. Like and he is absolutely one of those people. Like I can count them on my hand. Like there's you just feel that kind of connection with where you're like, yeah, I totally. And then when he killed himself, I couldn't understand it. Like, and that doesn't happen to me with. I'm not a callous person or whatnot, but like when people kill themselves and it's in the news and it's this big deal and you're just like, man, that's really sad. But it doesn't really, let's be honest, it doesn't extremely affect a lot of us. It's just like one of those things that happens. And like, I feel really bad for his family. I feel bad for all those things, but like, it doesn't, but for some reason that one really, cause I felt like he had everything, he had it all together. Like he was doing it. And then like, I mean, it definitely shone a light on kind of depression, right? And I mean, not that it wasn't already, but like, we had so many greats like Robin Williams and people like that, where you're just like, you would never in a million years. But I remember specifically, actually, it's weird, the day that Anthony Bourdain died, I didn't think we'd be talking about this today. Day that dark.
And what was weird though, because it was actually the day that my Jaws image like went viral. On that day specifically, I got employed to paint some massive American flag murals, and which is not a thing that happens a lot for me either. I used to paint a lot of murals, but I hadn't done it in a while. So like I was painting these three huge, I'm talking like 25 feet by one of them was like at least 15 or 16 feet tall, like huge waving flags. And it was a really fun day, but I was absolutely exhausted by the end. So my phone was getting blown up because it was all over the news. Like the shark stuff was all over the news in Europe. And then like I was doing these very patriotic, like just painting these huge flags all day, 3 of them. And I kind of like, I almost had like a breakdown at the end of the day. I was exhausted. And I just sat on the floor and I kind of vomited out on my phone this manifesto almost of just like what the day, how weird it was. And I ended up dedicating all the paintings I'd done that day to him, and just like, you know, really sad that he didn't get what he was looking for here on Earth and blah, blah, blah kind of thing. But like, I really feel it was a very, very strange day. So I have this really weird connection with him. And that video of him critiquing In-N-Out burgers, like it's perfect television.
Oh, he's like, you're walking through that hotel lobby with a bag of greasy burgers and smells like onions, and the whole staff is like, "Good job, sir. Great choice, sir." But it's like that makes sense to me though. Like, because you know, you had mentioned Robin Williams. Like Robin Williams, obviously incredible stand-up and incredible actor. I mean, comedic, dramatic, but he was like a Hollywood legend. You know, it's hard to be able to be in a position where you could be like, I could relate slightly to any kind of like day of Robin Williams' life. But then you've got somebody like Anthony Bourdain, who like, I remember discovering him. I was like, wait a second, this dude smokes cigs, he curses, he drinks, and he just travels around and eats all this amazing food. And like, I was like, this is awesome. And it really seems like for him, he was just always who he was and had a passion for what he did. And that fame because of his passion, the fame kind of found him, instead of him being like, well, my goal is to be a cook and then have a TV show and then write this, you know what I mean? Like he just loved what he did, and the fruit came from that. And that reminds me of you, where it's like, I honestly think like if, you know, even if you didn't have 50,000 people looking at your pictures every day, I don't think that would stop you from being, you don't seem like the kind of guy where I'd be like, well, yeah, he wouldn't be sitting and editing pictures or getting in the cage and taking pictures of sharks if nobody, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, you're not doing it for that.
So it's funny you said that, because like I don't take photos of anything for anyone else. Like I had to explain this to someone else a couple of days ago. Like I think that's actually, honestly, art school probably helped a lot with that, because they pound out of you kind of any kind of fragileness you might have about your work. Like you have to be, I mean, I kind of called it as a rule of thumb now, is like, you have to be able to throw it away at any minute. Like I used to live and die by the last photo I'd taken. I was like, oh, I have to do like, and now it's like, I don't give a fuck what people think. Like I do what I do because I love doing it and I have to do it. Like, It's like breathing to me kind of thing, where I'm like, I mean, sharks, I'm extremely honored that I get to as much as I do, and I'm very thankful for it. But I'm just talking like creating stuff in general, whether it's 3D printing. It comes in all different kinds of forms, right? So, and I feel like that is a huge disconnect with a lot of creative people nowadays. Like I'm nothing special. I've just found a way to the art of not giving a fuck kind of thing. Like I've just found a way to be like, it's great. If you don't like it, it's not for you, and that's totally fine. Like we don't have to talk about it. We can talk about it if you'd like. Like I'm always down to talk about it, but like
open for a conversation. But
yes, yeah. So it's like, to me, it's and you know, it's funny. It translates even in the corporate world. Like my wife works in a very she's very smart. She works with a lot of very smart people working on things that are, but like drama and all that kind of stuff ekes its way into these kind of situations, as everyone knows who works in a corporate environment. And it's very easy to get mixed up in like, oh, well, they might not like me if I do this. And I'm just like, look, in the end of the day, this is a business, not to be callous about it, but it's just like, you have to think about it how other people are going to think about it. And like, you have to be a bit selfish in this situation. If it's going to push your project along in the correct direction, you have to be able to like, and there is, yes, I understand. There's a fine mixture of being a good boss and an asshole, and like so there is, but just like being an artist, like it's even tougher almost as an artist, and people probably will shake their head at that kind of thing, but like you have to. There's no one else you can rely on. So like if you're not confident enough to put it out in the world for people to see, like no one else is going to do it for you. And then it's just going to sit on the shelf and it's never going to do anything kind of thing. So you have to put your stuff out there. And so if the minute that someone goes, oh, this is dumb, or why is the shark orange, or like and you let it affect you enough that you just don't put it out anymore, like that's so sad. It's so sad to me.
Well, it's funny because it reminds me, Quentin Tarantino was on Bill Maher last night, and he was talking about getting criticism for like his films. And he said, a lot of the questions he gets is, well, do you think it was the right choice to have your character do this? Or, I would have done it this way. And Quentin Tarantino, he said, well, that's assuming that you could write the movie that I wrote, and that you could film the movie that I wrote, and that so you're telling me what you would do, but you have none of the skills to do what I have done. So like, pardon me if I tell you to fuck off. Like I'm gonna, you know what I mean?
And it's even funny with film. I feel people get more brash with film. Like they get more brazen in their like criticisms and their attacks. They make it very personal and stuff. And I actually had to, that was a small, because I started doing a lot more video stuff. And so I had to adjust the way that I would intake that kind of criticism, because like people get very specific, like, why did you use that song and that camera angle and that like you're like, well, like first of all, like because people don't do that to like chefs. I mean, yes, food writers and stuff, but you don't walk into like, you don't go into a Chili's and be like, well, if you do, you're just kind of an asshole. But like, I need to talk to the chef, and like this is like I don't know.
Some 17-year-old kid with tattoos on his face. He's the chef of fucking Chili's.
I just warmed it up in the microwave, man. Like,
I'm a line cook, dude. Shut the fuck up.
So like it's just so there's just a lot of noise, right? In anything, but especially creative. It's like there's a lot of people who want to tell you how to do it their way, and to them, I always just say, then please go and do it that way. Go and do it. Come with me. Come shark diving. Let's go and do it. You take your own photos. You do it the way you want to do it, kind of thing. Like I don't get messed up in that kind of stuff anymore. But like there is something to be said for just. Confidence is something that you gain through perspective, and perspective is something you gain through life experiences. So like if you can't go out there and create these moments in time where you're pivoting, you're shifting the way you're thinking about something. I mean, that's growth, right? That's getting older. That's your brain evolving, being able to see something from multiple angles. But that honestly, it's so much deeper when you're able to go out to places, have these experiences. Your growth and understanding in life like greatly increases, and then you're able to make better educated decisions in the things that you have to do. And also you have the confidence then to be able to be like, I know this is like for what I wanted to show. This is exactly what I wanted to show. And this is my platform to do it on. That's what I'm going to do. Like to make those, it's pretty black and white when it gets to that point. But it does take time to get up to that point sometimes with people, but it's like, my advice is just to stick with it. Just your stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah. The stick-to-itiveness. Like my thing is like, I've always been, you talk about like people with like films and movies. I've always been like a big independent film. Like I remember seeing Clerks when I was like 11 and just being like, this movie, like it's in black and white. Who makes movies? And it just kind of like blew my mind. And then since then, just kind of anything weird that I could find or, but I don't understand. I've never been the person, like I would never be like you said, I don't know why you picked this song for this scene. Like I don't, and maybe that it comes from a place of like, again, we were never like an arena band or anything like that, but we wrote our own music. We went out and we were like, hey, club of like 300 people, hope you guys like the song, it's, I don't know if it comes from like,
it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same.
Just having the bravery to put something out maybe stops you from being the person that's like, it just seems like those people
like respect too, right? For someone's art. Like I always like if someone asks me their opinion about like, well, what would you have done? Like, then that's your time to be able to be like, well, I really think like I'm not getting paid to criticize your art. Like that's not my job. I'm there to enjoy it. And if it's not my cup of tea, it's not my cup of tea. But it's like the last thing I would do to anybody is be like, that shit, it looks horrible. Like can you imagine just spending your entire life online just being like, why'd you do that? Like what? Like it sounds like it really affects me. It really doesn't, but I feel bad for those people who just like, who haven't taken the time, or maybe they have, and they're just stuck in some kind of weird thing. That's another thing, man. Like the world it's all different kinds of people. They're all different. There's
different strokes.
Different strokes. People are dealing with different things. Like you never know what's going on. So like you got to take and it's that gets amplified when you get a bigger following, obviously, because there's just more people, more problems. But so I've had to check myself a couple times because I'm like, I don't know the situation. I don't know why they would have said something like that. But like, but obviously at the same time, like if you're going to be rude, then.
Well, we also live in a super weird, like, can you imagine doing what you do in like the 70s? You know what I mean? Because like you would hear your photos, like, people can come see them and things like that. But like, there's no way that I could be like, Euan, why'd you make the shark orange? What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, but we live in this time where like someone can look at your photo and then just be like, well, this is what I would have done, and send you a message. And like, you might actually see it. You know what I mean? Like if you care to look at it, it's exactly. It's weird. I think it's very strange that like we live in this time where like I don't like Ted Cruz. I'm just not a Ted Cruz fan. So if he says something, he's like the only person that I ever like would say something to. Sure. But
that's also different if it's like a politician and someone who's going to like directly affect your life.
But it's fucking weird that I can do that. It's weird that I could be like, hey, Ted Cruz, you know what I mean? Because like if this was 20 years ago, he would, I'd just be talking to myself and he'd never know. You know what I mean? So it seems like it's you've got, again, 50,000 people a day looking at your work, but then that's, which is amazing. And then on the other side of the coin is like, well, 25,000 of these people could be, dicks. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it's probably a much smaller, if you follow you, and I'm not lumping you into that. I'm sure it's a much smaller percentage than 25%.
There are some though.
And it's funny because they follow you to be a dick. There was one guy, I forget who it was, but like he made some super rude comment, and I think you put it in your story, and you were like, "We don't talk like that," or something like that. You just like scolded him in front of everybody.
I don't do that very often, but when it's like that blatantly obvious, like I get a lot of like, dudes, I get weird DMs. I get people sending me like photos of sharks all cut up and stuff, just trying to get under my skin and like stuff where I'm like, and it's like it's like psychologically, like you took the time to find this image and then to find me and then send it to me. Like, are you that starved for attention that you desperately need me to talk to you? Like there's other ways. You can just send me a message and say hello. I'm going to say hello back.
That's how you and I linked up. I was like, hey man, I'm a big fan of I just found your Instagram. I think you're awesome. Like, would you want to talk? You're like, hey, I'm going camping, but let me let you know when I get back. You know what I mean? I was like, sweet.
Yeah. No, it's very easy to get a hold of me if you want to. So like, but it's and like that dude that I put on blast, I think in the end, I think he didn't speak a lot of English. I think he was from somewhere else, and just, I can't even remember what it was about anymore, but like, it was just blatant. It was like so over the top and just like out of left field rude that I was just like, wow. But I think it was a breakdown in communications. But then again, he like fired back with it. It's always funny when that kind of stuff happens, and then instead of like admitting defeat, they just like try and double down, and it's just like that's just that's a whole other thing on the internet. But like I said, I make it a point not to get tangled up in that, but at the same time, like I'm not a pushover, so if stuff like that
sometimes
happens,
you got to put the baby in the corner. You know what I mean? So, but well, like I said, man, you are somebody that I looking at your work, I find myself, and it's crazy with you because there are some things where, you look at it and you're like, oh, I'm inspired by that. But then there are certain people where I can check back with their work frequently. And you're like, shit, he inspired me again. You know, it's like it's almost like if I feel like I'm not doing enough, or like if I feel like I'm not doing enough, or I feel like I should be doing something to be more creative, I can always look at your page and be like, oh yeah, I'm just being a bitch. Like I need to like go, because like Euan is doing, you've always got something going. And I'm like, he's got 2 kids. I've got 1 kid. He's got like 7 jobs. Like, and he's always doing this stuff. Like I'm just making excuses.
No, I mean, dude, like the fact that you're still doing this, your podcast, you're still plugging along with this, and you're really, really good at it too, by the way. I don't know if I told you that last time. You've got a real knack for great interviews, man. So, yeah. And I like, I think with me, like I said, though, it's more just the creative drive. And I've always wanted a platform to be able to like, I mean, showing the stuff off, because at the end of the day, like I can sit there and look at it. Like I am taking it for me, but like I'm so appreciative that people enjoy it as well. So but I get more fuel from hearing stuff like that, where I always say it online. People send me like either they get one of my photos tattooed on them, or they paint one of my photos or draw it or something like that. And inspiring art, I think, is like one of the things I live for now, kind of thing. Like I love seeing that happen. I love hearing about it. I love when people constantly ask, like, do you mind if I use it? I'm like, absolutely. Use it as a reference for your photo, or use it, I mean, for your painting or whatever it is. Like that's what this stuff is for. Like, that's why that's other than fulfilling my creative desires and itches and stuff. It's these animals they're for all of us to enjoy and to look at and see and stuff. And I think that's a crucial part of why the stuff that I do has been successful, is because such a small amount of the population does what we do. It is a niche, but it doesn't have to be. Like, it's like I said, I mean, I run a company that we pretty much beg people to come and do it with us because it's so life-changing kind of thing. So like people are able to do it, but there's just this fascination, like we all have, obviously, with these incredible animals. So it's, I think I said this last time, one of my good buddies, Mike Coots, who had his leg literally taken off by a tiger shark, is now like one of the biggest ambassadors for them. And I remember him telling me that like he feels like it's a duty now to change the perspective that people have on sharks. And so I've kind of adopted that as well now with what I do. Just in all cases, try and show them in the light that we see them in. Not even that, people would say the best light there, but it's like, it's in the light that they are in. Like it's what we know and how they are and all the rest of it. So like, which that's a massive responsibility, but at the same time, it's just continuing to do kind of what we're doing now. And I'm so excited, obviously, to get back out there, but just for this year in general, just like because I think it's going to be a very pivotal year for our company, and then also for my photos in general. Like I feel like if it goes really well this year, I mean, it could do really good things for me, which I'm hoping it does, and allows me to kind of shoot more and shoot other things as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I don't know. You're a different kind of human being, man. And like when Nikki was on, when you talk about sharing this experience, I think one of the things that make you guys so special at what you do is, she had mentioned a lot of like the Mountain Dew bros, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm going to ride a shark, bro. And it's like, you guys are very much like, no, like this is something we have a passion for. We respect these animals, like, so I think that elevates the experience to a whole never level. You know what I mean? Because it's like they're not, it's not like seeing the bear ride the tricycle at the circus. You know what I mean? It's like,
show. Yeah, it's definitely not a free. It's the utmost respect for these animals. And like the minute that, I mean, if it was at all, people like to attack me too on, not all the time, but I get the occasion, like, why you people don't understand that, like when they bite the big pieces of tuna, it's on a hemp rope. It just slices it right in half. Just passes right through the shark, has nothing bad. And that's the whole point of the game, is to not let the shark get the thing, or the piece of tuna that's in the water around it. So like, people think they're hooks in their mouth. So like, people very, it's typical internet, very knee-jerk reaction,
right.
What's without understanding. But Nikki and I both, when that happens, I used to get all bent out of shape about it, but now she's coached me as she was like the head of HR at Citibank. So like the chick is the best at like talking you through these kind of situations. But so she's like, we've now used it as learning opportunities for these people where you can like coach them through, be like, actually, it's not what's happening. This is what's happening. And like this, we can lay out the facts kind of thing. And it's a lot better experience for everyone involved. People read it, gain a little bit of knowledge, and that perspective widens up a bit, and they don't tend to make those kind of comments after that. So she's a great yin to my yang. I'm very passionate and all the rest of it. So I tend to be kind of knee-jerk reactionary. I mean, not typing stuff on the internet, but like, I can be a very emotional, fiery person, and she is definitely she's great and calculated and all that. So I can help her with stuff, and she helps me with that kind of stuff big time.
Yeah, it's we talked about that a little bit when she was on, but it's definitely like the universe put you guys together. You know what I mean? Because I told her, I was like, it's like talking with you, and he's so passionate about what he does, and he's such like a genuine dude, and he comes across as so caring. But if I didn't know him and you came up to me in a bar and looked at me the wrong way, I would shit my pants. You know what I mean? So it's like to have you two kind of paired together is again,
I think it works well because of that.
Yeah.
It's so different. And we're so like, we're different and we're not like, and I think with Nikki too, I think I help her with her confidence a lot. I talk about, I own a company with the word in it. Like confidence to me is like, it's the game changer, right? It's a stupid thing to say, but like, if you're like, she's such a talented photographer and just like way with people and all the rest of it. Like, so she sometimes needs that big up where you're just like, hey, like you absolutely are in doing the right thing. And like, I don't know if you just saw, she went and swam with crocodiles down in Mexico. Yeah.
Yes.
So
she's a crazy person.
Yeah. She, incredible. And like the photos, she let me edit a bunch of them for her, which was awesome.
The Be a Shark wetsuit was so dope. Yeah. It was so cool.
Yeah. So we're, she's definitely the yang to my yang, and it helps on these, because we go. Another thing people don't understand is we go on all these trips that we're selling. Like we're both there the whole time, shooting right alongside you, kind of thing. So it's she's so good with like getting people in, and then like helping to answer all the questions even before we go. Like she spends hours on the phone with people who are thinking about booking, and like, talks them through pretty much every situation they can think of. Cause obviously there's a lot of questions when it comes to this kind of thing. So, and 9 times out of 10, if you do reach out to us, it's going to be her answering your question anyway. Cause I'm like, I can't, she's so much better at it than me, but I do call people when I need to. She's definitely, well, I'm so thankful that her and her husband, Chad, he's an incredible dude as well. And he's a champion of her too, which is awesome.
Yeah. She told me a story about you guys had just gotten to where there was cell phone service, and, cause you guys are out in the water. And so she hadn't talked to him. She called him, she said, "Hey, trip was great. My battery's about to die. I'll give you a call later." And then she hung up like real quick and got a text. She's like, "Yeah, I took a nail through my hand," or like for the nail gun. And she is, and I say this in the most affectionate of ways, but after like talking with her on Instagram and having her come on the podcast, she is a straight up savage with everything that she knows. Like she was sending me, she sent me photographs, and like this is what this mark is, and this is how we identify. Like I have a folder of stuff that she sent me, and I was like, this woman knows so much. It's like mind blowing. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like,
I warn people when I go, they'll hit me up to be like, "Yeah, we'd love to go shark diving with you guys. Can you send me some more information?" And I always say like, absolutely. Thank you for reaching out. Like, can I get your email? Be on the lookout for an email from Nikki, my business partner. She is more shark crazy than me, if that's even possible. So I always have to like just preface everyone and be like, you're about to talk to someone who literally eats, sleeps, and breathes this. Like I eat, sleep it, she breathes it. So it's like she is such a champion of those animals, and that she's the only kind of person I think I could run this kind of company with. Because like, I personally don't care about making money doing this. Like, again, it's a means for me to introduce these animals to more people, to shed light on them not being aggressive to humans, all that kind of stuff. And selfishly in the process, be able to go and photograph them and do my creative thing. But she is like, whereas I think she needs to focus, like she needs to understand that she is such a talented photographer herself, but she's out there really for bringing the people together, but also just to see these animals. Like it's I mean, it's like going to Jurassic Park every time you see them. Yeah. So who wouldn't want to do that anyway? But they're it's like
legit dinosaurs. You know what I mean? It's crazy, man. Well, you know, like I said, I am very often super impressed and super motivated and inspired by the things that you do. And I did, you know, want to, for people who are listening, obviously, if you, again, Euan is a guy with a lot of different irons in the fire. You can check out euanart.com to see pictures, get prints. Beashark.team if you're interested in the cage diving. I told my wife, I told Nikki when she was on, when my daughter gets old enough, that might be something me and her have to do, like a sea bonding trip. But if people are interested in the photography course, what is the best way for them to reach out to you or to check that out? And we'll put, I mean, anybody who's listening is most likely knows your Instagram, but we'll put that in there as well. Check out those photos. But with the photography course, and if people want to learn how to take better photos and to develop that skill, where's the best way for them to find that information?
I'm just looking up the exact, I'm looking up the exact website. I think it's photoconfidenceacademy.com. I need to look because we just locked in the domain. It's Photography Confidence Academy is the name of the product, but I think it's Photocon. So I'll get you the link for it. It's literally that new. We're just getting all that stuff kind of ironed out. Oh
yeah, as soon as I saw it, I was like, dude, come on and talk about this because I think people will love it. So
yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, dude. And like really for yourself too. Like I'm so stoked that you're still having fun doing this. I will come on whenever you have an opening and you want to chat. I love it so much.
Don't tell me that, man. You'll be my guest the next 6 weeks. Like, come on back. So
I feel like I just talk about myself too much, but like it's always fun talking to you. So I really appreciate having me again.
Well, I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much. Would you mind sticking around for a minute after we wrap up?
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, that is episode number 58. We're coming up on 60, man. It feels like we're really rocking and rolling. So thank you guys for spending a little time with us. Again, huge thank you to Mr. Euan Rannachan. Check out the show notes. Go check them out. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube. Watch the show, listen, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And we will see you guys next week.